Hi, this is Priscilla Perkins, and I'm going to do a quick analysis of Emily Dickinson's Tell All the Truth But Tell It Slant, which is number 1263 in her collected works. Um, I'm going to start by reading the poem, and then I'm going to go through a few of the different elements that I think make the poem interesting for us as listeners and readers. Um, but I want you to keep in mind that this is just my reading. Uh, Although it is based on what is in the poem, but other readings can be different. So here we go. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. So, in what follows, I'm not going to talk about Dickinson's use of capital letters or her use of em dashes, which there aren't actually that many in this poem, but she uses them all the time. And scholars don't agree at all. They don't have a common explanation for what those mean. So I'm going to set those to the side and focus on the structure of the poem and the use of sound and visual imagery. So we don't know who the speaker of this lyric is, but I think we can describe their voice. They are witty, bright, wise, possibly a little sly. They address the reader directly in a way that feels kind of like advice. But we have to wonder, how does the speaker know what they're talking about? They sound very authoritative, but how do they know? There's no obvious setting in time or place, but again, the situation seems to involve a person sharing their wisdom with an audience. So when she writes, tell all the truth, but tell it slant, I don't see the speaker as actually advocating lying, but I think words like slant, circuit, eased, kind, and gradually suggests that the truth teller has to avoid being blunt and can't even really be straightforward with the person that they're talking to. And I have to wonder why. So that's something I'm going to focus on here and there as I go along, and especially in my conclusion. Words like infirm, which means sick, and children indicate that people aren't mentally prepared for the power of the truth, even though we need to know it. So, what kind of truth could Dickinson be talking about? It's bright, superb, a surprise, like lightning and dazzling. Could the speaker be talking about God or science? Other poems by Dickinson suggest that she was strongly interested in both. She was really interested in the idea of electricity, for example. Um, but she was just a layperson. She didn't understand a ton about it. Like, I don't understand a ton about it. Um, when it comes to word choice and the order of words or syntax, which is a word that you'll more often hear me use rather than word order, I noticed that she keeps mostly to 1 and 2 syllable words, which I think keeps with the theme of making the truth easier for people to take in. Um, it's I don't want to say dumbed down, but she's not giving it to them at full strength. Her phrasing here and in all of her poems is very tight. So if you picture what this poem would look like if the ideas were presented in prose, it would be so much longer. Dickinson inverts the syntax at several points. If you look at the highlighted phrases, too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. If you were going to say that in usual English order, it would be something more like, the truth's superb surprise is too bright for our infirm delight. So these inversions keep us on our toes, but they also help with things like the rhythm, as I'll talk about in a moment. The word circuit, I think, is especially interesting here, because here the basic meaning is just round. You can go around as you're telling the truth. But it could also be kind of short for the word circuitous, which, if you're thinking about someone's speech, it's usually kind of a not derogatory, but like it's a pejorative word, or it's not a word that suggests honesty necessarily. It can mean roundabout or indirect, like, yes, the car is crashed. Let me tell you how my day went. And then along the way, you'll find out how the accident happened. I don't know. That's just an example of kind of how circuitous phrasing can work. So there aren't tons of figures of speech in this poem, but I think there are two kinds of figurative language that she uses here that are really important. I've highlighted them in green and yellow. So spatial language indicates the need to be subtle by avoiding directness, the slant, and the circuit. But then also because people are supposedly childlike and weak, and because the truth is so unexpected, it's so surprising, it's so dazzling, telling it all at once will blind the hearer. So it has to be softened or shaded. And this leads us to understand that the truth is delightful, it is superb, but it is also powerfully dangerous. I love the sound in this poem. There are so many initial S sounds, and when there's repetition of the first letters of words, we call that alliteration. So slant, success, circuit, superb, surprise. Plus, she uses L sounds throughout in the beginnings, middles, and ends of words. Tell, slant, lies, delight, lightning, explanation, dazzle, gradually, blind. So both the S and the L sounds, I think, tend to make a poem sound kind of slippery. And so I wonder, why might that be useful for Dickinson? And that's something we can keep thinking about. On the other hand, there are a lot of T sounds, which give the poem a crisp sound in places like tell, truth, circuit, too, bright, delight, lightning, and must. When it comes to structure, this gets a little bit complicated, but it doesn't have to be complicated. We see Dickinson alternating between 8-syllable and 6-syllable lines. And in each line is divided into units of 2 syllables. So in the 8-syllable lines, there are 4 of those units. In the 6-syllable lines, there are 3 of those units. And in this poem, the beat is in the second syllable of each foot. So you can see an example in the first 2 lines. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. I emphasized the words more than I would if I were actually like doing a regular reading of the poem, but I'm hoping that you can kind of hear what I'm talking about. This pattern is of unstressed, stressed syllables is called iambic, and the 8-syllable lines are referred to as tetrameter, And the 6-syllable lines are referred to as trimeter. And literally that means, that comes from the Greek, and it means 4 feet and 6 feet. I mean, yeah, no. 4 feet and 3 feet. So the each foot is 2 syllables. Meter is a Greek word that is similar to our word foot as in terms of like measuring. I think I actually got the rhyme scheme incorrect on this slide, but I'm hoping you can still see how she does it. So tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success encircle lies. Too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise. So the first and third lines don't really rhyme. The second and fourth lines do. In the second set of 4 lines, as lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. So kind and blind rhyme, while eased and gradually don't really. So some conclusions. The speaker shows some concern for other people's capacity for recognizing and understanding the truth, so they kind of advise us to slow walk our explanations of reality. Tight inverted phrasing and slippery sounds throughout the poem show in language how this truth can be slanted. Here's my take. Though it's possible that the speaker is mostly concerned about other people's feelings, I wonder whether it could also be the case that they fear the reactions of others when they are telling their own hard truths, perhaps about relationships or how they feel or what they see happening in their world. Because the speaker doesn't spell out the kinds of truths that concern them, I think, as a reader of lots of Dickinson's poems, that this is a fair question to ask. I don't know the answer to it, and I would love to hear other people's ideas based on their own careful readings of her use of sound and language. So tell me what you think. And thank you for listening.